So we need to skip another duelist on this list because it's one that we'll double back to. And that brings the topic of discussion to Iron Fist. Now, Iron Fist is a title, not as much as it is a character, and that has been passed on to a couple of different characters. And as I hope everyone's aware at this point, this is not the most well-known version of Iron Fist, but rather Lin Bie. And he is pretty young in his tenure as being the Iron Fist. He was first introduced in 2018 and assumed the mantle of Iron Fist in 2022. So he's got a really short time frame as being the Iron Fist, and as a result has a lot of the base powers, but not a lot of the larger skill set that we've seen in some of the other Iron Fists that have come before him. So I have been really struggling with an idea of what could be done to bolster his abilities beyond what he already has. Now, when he made his appearance in 2018, he was under the moniker of Swordmaster, which is when he wielded the sword of Fu Shi. And that has been referenced in some of his dialogue, but it's not something that he currently has in his possession, at least in this timeline. I don't know how well that applies to the comics, whether or not that's something he's actively using. But any of those abilities that were granted to him by the use of the sword Fu Shi wouldn't be available to him on account of the fact that he doesn't have it. So we have to discount that entire area. So then we have using concentrated chi into his fist, which gives him the Iron Fist moniker and power set, along with being an expert swordsman and martial artist. And then that last option of an expert puzzle solver doesn't really get applied into his current moveset. Now, he does have a lot of abilities and keybinds, and he has a couple of unique passives that are in his kit as well. But as I'm thinking here, I'm really trying to get a good grasp of what could be done, and he does have the potential to get bursted down if people turn around and kind of focus him once he gets into enemy territory. And I know that a lot of the ways that they have tried to balance this out is by adjusting the damage that he deals, as he does deal some percent-based damage based on what class of character it is that he is attacking. And while he does have an open keybind, if you're going to keep him as an exclusive martial character, it's really difficult to give him an ability that isn't already implemented in his kit, or at least something that would act off of a keybind. So my suggestion is to use something along the lines of a damage reduction from what his opponents are dealing. He already has his block, which can mitigate all damage for a momentary point in time, and he has percent-based damage, which makes him some better threats to some characters and worse against others, as well as his Kunlun Kick and other punches and things within his arsenal. But the thing that they haven't tried and really don't have on any character to this point is damage reduction. And that is a large part of martial arts, is being able to reduce the threat of your opponents as you're fighting with them. Now, you've got to be really careful with that. So I'm thinking you maybe apply a 10 to 15% damage reduction at most. And again, that's not damage received as much as it is damage that the opponents are dealing. So if they switch targets from hitting you to hitting any of your teammates, they're also benefiting from that just based on having reduced damage that they are receiving. And you probably only want to have that last 5 seconds at the absolute most, mainly because you don't want to be hindering the enemy team too much, but it gives the opponents that are facing him more of an incentive to get rid of him. Because again, I think that needs to be applied on that last strike of his combo, something of a stunning strike in terms of reducing the damage that you're dealing when you get hit by that final hit in the combo, and I don't think it should stack either. But the stunning strike also shouldn't put you into any degree of stun in actuality. It should really just be something that applies to the damage that that target recipient of that final strike receives. So yeah, like I said, this one's pretty tough, but I think that's the best suggestion that I have at this point in time, especially because it's not something that has been tried in attempts to balance him, and it could be worth a look, in my opinion. But what do you think? Is there a different change that you would like to see made to Iron Fist? I am interested to hear your feedback in the comments, and we'll be back with the next duelist in line tomorrow.